Asserting central dominion, the pawn claims a significant foothold and opens diagonals for queen and bishop. Immediately contesting the center, this knight prepares to influence key squares and develop harmonious piece play, setting up potential queenside expansion. Asserting central space, c4 aims to challenge black's knight's influence and prepare queenside expansion. This move anchors black's central pawn structure, preparing development while slightly restricting the queen's bishop. Developing the knight here aims to reinforce the central pawn majority and prepare for further piece activity, potentially eyeing the queenside. Challenging white's central ambitions, this pawn thrust immediately clarifies the pawn structure and opens lines for black's bishops. Striking the center pawn removes immediate tension, opening lines for piece development and forcing black into a strategic choice. Opening the center establishes a balanced pawn structure, paving the way for active piece play and potential pawn breaks later. Unleashing early pressure, this bishop eyes the knight, potentially disrupting black's central pawn structure and creating tactical opportunities. Solidifying central control and preparing to castle, this developing maneuver neatly sidesteps any immediate tactical entanglement from the bishop. Solidifying the center and preparing to develop the kingside piece provides a stable foundation. Securing the monarch's safety is paramount, allowing for future piece development and a more aggressive stance. Developing the bishop to this diagonal offers control of key dark squares and prepares for a queenside pawn push while keeping the king safe. Solidifying the pawn chain, this move aims to build a stable central structure, restricting white's immediate kingside pressure and preparing for future queenside expansion. Positioning the queen centrally aims to support the upcoming e4 push and potentially exert pressure on the queenside. Developing the knight to d7 frees the c8 bishop and prepares for a potential c5 pawn push, aiming to challenge white's central control and open lines. Developing the knight to this square prepares for a central kingside expansion, while maintaining flexibility for the queen's defense. Bringing the rook to the open file shores up the kingside and prepares to challenge central control along the e-file. Securing the king's safety now allows focus on developing a robust central presence. Realigning the knight, aiming for a safer square and potential counterplay on the kingside. Securing the queenside with a rook allows white to eye central expansion or potential queenside play later. Launching in queenside pawn, storm on a5 aims to pry open lines and challenge white's central control, potentially creating weaknesses. Solidifying the pawn structure in the center, this move aims to prepare for a potential kingside expansion while restricting black's central influence. Shattering the central pawn chain, black aims to seize initiative and open lines for active piece play. Consolidating the queenside, rook readies it for potential activity, either on the open d-file or to support a queenside expansion. Boldly seizing space, black aims to cramp white's position and create attacking chances on the queenside. Dislodging that pinned knight presents a tempting tactical opportunity, though it might weaken your own structure. Exchanging the bishop strategically opens the d-file and aims to reduce white's attacking potential on the queenside. Reclaiming the queen asserts queenside pressure, aiming to exploit the pawn chain's weaknesses. Initiating a pawn storm on the kingside here, aiming to dislodge the imposing bishop and create potential weaknesses around white's king. Recapturing the queen here aims to reroute it, potentially to pressure black's weakened queenside pawns and improve its defensive posture. Black activates the knight to a more central outpost, challenging white's pawn chain and preparing for potential central breakthroughs or counterplay. Sacrificing the bishop to weaken black's pawn structure and open lines for attack. Sacrificing the bishop opens dynamic diagonals, but relinquishes crucial dark square control near your king. A prophylactic maneuver, safeguarding the king against potential knight and bishop incursions while creating a hidden escape square on g2. The knight ventures to c7, eyeing the d5 pawn and potentially disrupting white's queenside pressure. Breaking open the center with this pawn thrust disrupts black's pawn chain and creates dynamic possibilities on the e-file. A surprising repositioning of the bishop, aiming to reroute it towards the king side and potentially challenge white's centralized pieces. Unleashing a pawn storm to seize central space, this aggressive pawn advance aims to break open lines towards black's somewhat exposed king. Seeking a safer square for the bishop, preparing to challenge the open file. Exploiting the weakened dark squares around the black king is the primary objective, creating immediate attacking chances. Black boldly contests the center, opening a complex battle for queenside initiative. Pushing the e-pawn cracks open the center and aims to disrupt black's queenside pawn structure. Unlocking the queenside with the pawn push is a bold but potentially risky endeavor, given the exposed king. Initiating central pawn thrusts to fracture black's defenses and seize open files. Challenging the flank immediately, black seeks to disrupt white's queenside buildup and create potential counterplay. Solidifying the queenside pawn structure, this maneuver creates a safe haven for the rook on a2 while eyeing potential weaknesses on b5. The rook awakens from its slumber on the back rank, aiming to activate itself on the queenside and challenge white's pawn chain. Establishing a powerful presence on the f-file promises to dismantle black's defenses. Sacrificing pawn structure for central initiative, this move opens the g-file and invites further complications around the black king. Reclaiming the open file, this rook immediately pressures black's weakened queenside and threatens to unravel its position. Exploiting the weakened kingside, this rook activation injects immediate tactical dynamism, aiming to dismantle white's pawn structure. Focusing the knight towards white's queenside majority opens avenues for pawn advances and potentially frees up the f3 rook. Reclaiming the outpost on d5 is crucial, but the knight might find a better role on f4. Reclaiming the open diagonal for the queen aims to exploit the weakened kingside pawn structure and pressure black's isolated pieces. Unleashing the rook to attack the weakened kingside offers dynamic counterplay. Unleashing the knight to h5 creates immediate pressure on the kingside and targets the vulnerable black king. Unlocking the bishop's influence and preparing for central expansion gives the queen more freedom to operate. Bolstering the kingside pawn structure provides a crucial defensive layer against black's encroaching pieces. Solidifying the king's refuge against the looming queenside pressure establishes a crucial defensive posture. Sacrificing the rook on f7 rips open lines and exposes the black king to a direct assault, promising aggressive play. Liberating the g-file rook, this capture initiates a dynamic counterplay, forcing white's king into a more exposed position. Sacrificing a queen to open critical lines against a vulnerable king, hoping to exploit the weakened dark squares. The queens are off the board, simplifying matters as the rook on the 7th rank becomes a potent attacking force. Trading rook simplifies, leaving a potentially unbalanced endgame with active knight versus passive knight. Seizing the open knight is crucial in this simplified landscape, forcing white to reconsider pawn structure. Reclaiming the pawn on e5 opens a critical diagonal for the rook, threatening immediate disruption. Prophylaxis becomes paramount, shoring up weaknesses and preparing for potential endgame shifts. A tactical foray exploiting the open d-file, aiming to disrupt black's pieces and potentially create passed pawns. Reshaping the rook's influence to bolster the pawn chain's defense and prepare for a potential kingside infiltration. Leveraging the knight's new outpost, white aims to disrupt black's already precarious pawn structure with immediate tactical threats.